Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We got hit with some big news. Let's cover it. Let's not tiptoe around. Let's jump into it. So, as predicted, Hall of Legends is pretty much confirmed at this point that UZI is going to be the next guy. I said this time and time again, it's always going to be a popularity contest because in the end, this is a way to generate money. The only players that deserve a rollout this size is going to be the most popular ones, the most famous ones. Faker obviously goes without saying, the goal of the game, the most popular player that decided to roll out, of course, last year, Hall of Legends, boom, even before retiring him. It makes sense if you want to advertise the Hall of Legends that you begin with the most high-profile player. In terms of UZI's popularity and, of course, China, this just kind of makes sense. Even in the skin choices, you have Vayne, which is super, super iconic, and also Kai'Sa, that in some sense, of course, UZI played a lot, but in terms of how much it will sell, obviously Kai'Sa really stands out as a champion. As you can see, this is a champion that just gets a lot of skins pushed out, so there is definitely going to be crossover between people that just play Kai'Sa and might not be fans of UZI, and also people that are just fans of UZI. In terms of where it will go in, like which direction this might go in the future, I do imagine that Riot is going to streamline this by celebrating a couple of players at the same time and forming the battle pass and the story that the battle pass is supposed to sell, with having like a couple of players, let's see the IG legends and Jackie Rookie, the Shy, maybe T1 legends, other T1 players, maybe Western League of Legends, legends. Like Bjergsen, Peke, Shushe, Caps, whoever. The issue is that nobody comes close to the size that, of course, Faker and UZI is kind of swinging around. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where this is going to go. I would imagine that the idea that I'm presenting is going to be the future of it. And in the end, this just seems like another way to generate money. That's why. It's like if you're rolling out this many skins, it's not about celebrating players or creating some kind of a Hall of Fame. This is just a question of, let's make this person as popular as possible so we can make as much money as possible. And that's what it comes down to. All right. Next news, Team Liquid. A Rainbow Six player, DS Lucas BR, made a social media post after playing against CAG Osaka. He made a social post, of course, was very offensive and insensitive, according to, of course, Team Liquid and their news post here. He made, according to this post, he searched for an explosion GIF using generic keywords to express how his team blew up during the loss, and in choosing one that matched the intensity of its emotions, he failed to realize how the imagery connected to a painful moment in Japan's history. And the main thing why this is such a big deal, of course, is quite insensitive to do this. There is a level of professionalism that you need to carry yourself with, especially when you are, representing a lot of brands and sponsorships. There's a very, very clear rationale as to why you should be as least offensive as possible. And this, of course, is a very sensitive topic in Japan. The aftermath of this, as they try to reconcile it, they try to Team Liquid is saying that there is financial and disciplinary action, a charitable contribution, and then global player education and discipline. Team Liquid is doing the whole rounds of trying to, repair this in the eye of the public, of course. And the player has already apologized to the CAG Osaka players, and they accepted the apology with grace and understanding and expressed that they saw it as was a mistake and not a deliberate insult. So in the aftermath of this was very, very massive. Team Liquid Honda is no longer Team Liquid Honda. Honda Motors, of course a Japanese car manufacturer, has decided to not renew the partnership. And this is after 6 years. 6 years. And naturally, the main question here, right, in terms of when the current deal that was struck was made, I looked up the post here from Honda Auto News, and this was June 16th, 2022, and this is where the League of Legends team naming rights deal signals expanded relationship and evolution of Honda's commitment to gaming. So Team Liquid Honda 2022, if you remember back to 2022, this was still when big deals were made. This is still when money was flowing in. And additionally, in terms of where your premium advertisement lies, what you're trying to sell is kind of advertisement real estate within your team, whether it's on a jersey or it's within the name. Being in the name, like FTX TSM, this is what is the most costly. This is what people are going to say when they mention your team name. They had, of course, the logo front and center, the Honda front and center. This must have been quite expensive. This must have been very, very expensive. Thinking about the timing and, of course, the leverage that Team Liquid had in NA, right? I imagine that, Honda Motors actually spent a shit ton of money to make this deal. I think in the current state of affairs where, of course, the idea of making money esports and making a return on esports, I do think that Honda decided to make the move to skip out on things. I think this was a way for them to exit, because obviously there are clauses in these type of contracts. And I think in this context, this was an opportunity for Honda to probably exit a very, very, expensive contract, because I can't imagine that they made their money back at all. And while this might open up a conversation about where esports is, like people are going to open up the conversation about gambling sponsors, people are going to talk about alcohol sponsors, and all these, places that are willing to spend a lot of money for nefarious reasons, because obviously they make a return, sadly. If esports is to survive in the current state, in terms of the level of professionalism that currently is in terms of housing and salaries and so forth, this is just the natural progression, because none of the sponsors that are endemic and the ones that have poured in money into esports haven't had a return. But we've seen a lot of sponsorships drop out. We've seen a lot of sponsorship across many teams besides the classic ones like Red Bull. Coinbase was just announced, right? Which is a crypto sponsorship, right? This is where the money is at. Whether it's gambling, Saudi Arabia, alcohol, these are the only avenues with money that have the capacity to derive value from the esports audience. And this is something that you see, of course, in traditional sports too. It isn't only esports. If you take a look at any UFC fighting, which it's kind of weird to call it traditional sports, but if you take a look at the UFC, everything is covered in alcohol sponsorship, crypto sponsorship, and gambling sponsorships. They're just trying to squeeze every penny in a world that everything is, of course, driven by capitalism. And now, as things move forward, I definitely imagine a world where Riot is going to open more and more opportunities for outside money that they've blocked in the past to flow in. We had, of course, when Kalis tried to join the league with KC, they raised the minimum age from 17 to 18 in the LEC. And this was, of course, some time ago. This was 2023, moving into 2024. And I think that Riot is going to make a move to distance themselves from League esports, to still reap the benefits of course, the advertisement vehicle that it is, but to send the cost of operating events and tournaments to tournament organizers like ESL, that is owned by Saudi Arabia, or anyone that can make a buck. And through that, Riot can position themselves to not go so deep in the red when it comes to esports. And I think eventually we will head to a world where all the regional leagues, LTA, LEC, LCK, LPL, I think these leagues will turn into tier 2. And I think that the top 2-3 most popular teams from all of the regions are going to just play international events that are going to be organized by, these TOs that I just mentioned. And I think like this, you create circumstances where the most popular teams play against each other time and time again. Because in the end, if we're looking at, for example, MSI or the World Championship, League of Legends has been extremely lucky with the fact that, for example, last year's MSI just happened to have the most popular teams by far from, of course, LCK and the LPL. And of course, you can argue that KC not going was kind of a hit, but you know, in the end, now KC performing is also something that Riot and LEC is incredibly thankful for, because obviously it's really, really good for the viewership and the region. But luck can only take you so far. So I do think that eventually, mark my words, we will move back to a format where tournaments are going to happen. Riot will take a step back, and we're going to have a scenario where teams will work together to, of course, band all of the biggest fan bases from all the regions to make sure that these international events are reoccurring and allow the tier 2 leagues, so to speak, that I mentioned, give them a chance to qualify for, of course, the wild card and the underdog, shot. And then maybe Riot in the end will be the ones to host and create the World Championship, because this is what they do best in terms of the storytelling and so forth. Let me know what you think. A little bit of a news post. Everything's gotta try to keep up with what's happening in the world. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I wish you all the best. Peace. Peace. Peace is good.